Hello, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I am your host, Sudip Maiti, career designer. Welcome to Classroom to Boardroom Talk Show, episode number 19. We are gathered here to enlighten you about the different ways by which the transition can be happen from classroom to boardroom. We'll discuss about the hurdles and challenges that come along the way, take charge of your career, and also listen to the different eminent persons who have excelled in their own field. Today, we have invited one of the great emotional mentor from UK who wants to help accountant and bookkeepers to grow and develop their business by overcoming a number of behavioral and mental and emotional challenges. She is in a mission to raise the awareness that emotional content is an important ally in well-being, that by ignoring it we not only make life more difficult for ourselves but potentially cause ourselves great physical harm. So today, we are welcoming here the one of the great leader from UK. So she is none other than Kim. So today we'll talk about the topic called how to improve your work-life balance. So over to you, Kim. Can you please introduce yourself in an elaborate way to the audience so that they can understand who are you and what is
Yeah.
your profession and why you are into this particular mission?
So, first of all, Sudeep, thank you so much for inviting me and to your audience for joining today, or if there's a catch up. Really appreciate your time because I appreciate it's busy. So, thank you for the introduction. That is an overview of what I do. I'm an emotional mastery coach. There is a lot going on in the world about mental health, and I think that's fantastic. It's brilliant. But I think we're missing a trick because in those early learning years between 0 and 7, our brain is just absorbing everything and it's learning. That brain is a continual learning machine, but it learns not in words necessarily or sentences or paragraphs. It learns through the five senses and the data that is transferred back. And it uses emotional or biochemical signals to interact with the brain, so which is electrochemical. And so if we can tap into what we're feeling, for me, it's a guide to what is really going on for us and what we need to resolve in our life. If we use that as an indicator of how we are and how we're doing for ourselves, I believe that we are able to clear that and then just lead a much better, much happier, much more successful life. So when I work with my clients, I clear that emotional learning from the past, reset the now, and using hypnotherapy, I can create a new future. Now, I need to be very clear here. It doesn't mean to say I'll get you the new car, the new latest job or gadget, but I can create the emotional content as a memory, and your brain is like, I understand that. And it will then start to steer you to draw your attention into the things that you need to be looking at or doing that means that you'll head in the right direction. It's a bit complicated, but it's very powerful. Thank you, Sudeep.
Yeah, great for your introductions. So my next questions to you, so Kim, I want to know. So you have written here in your mission statement that is only for the bookkeepers and the accountant. Why this only the your target audience, accountant and
Okay,
bookkeepers?
so just to be clear, when you engage marketing specialists, they want you to niche. And at the time, I was focused on the introverted type person, the person who lives in their head. They have spent a lifetime learning, because that's how we have been successful. The more you learn, the more that you become valuable to society. And for some people who've done that a lot, they live here. They're just quiet people. They interact with one or two people closely, or when they're in a meeting, they don't say very much, just the odd thing, which is pivotal to the rest of the meeting. So it was introverts that I was looking for, because they live in their head. And of course, that's the way they've been trained from that youth, that young age, 0 to 7, and then up to 25. Everything they've done has been about learning information and facts and processes, etc. And when I was talking about this, I was told that when you talk about introverts, not everybody gets it. And not everybody will understand who is an introvert and who's not. I'm like, okay. So when they dug into my background, I've got a lot of finance in there. Now, hands up, I am not a qualified accountant or bookkeeper. I have done bookkeeping and I have worked in accounts environments. So when they looked at it, they said, you've got a lot of finance there. So I said, okay, finance sector, that's where I'll home in. But actually, if I can get into the accountants, if they've got clients who are suffering, that's great. If I'm talking to bookkeepers and they've got clients who are struggling, that's brilliant. So it's about choosing those two, but not to the exclusion of everybody else, just that I'm hoping that they will be a way of getting my message out, which is sort of why I come along today as well. It's just getting the message out. Listen to your emotions. What are they telling you? So, yeah, accountants and bookkeepers, but not exclusively.
Exactly. Absolutely correct. Yeah. So if you are not emotionally attached with any things, whatever you want to do in your life, if you are
Yeah.
not emotionally attached, so that will be the really impossible for you.
Yeah.
So you should be emotionally attached with the things. So that's the very important things. Yeah. I like your comments and all about this particular topic. So before moving into the main topic, so I want to understand about you, because the thing is that as a career designer, I want to know, because you have worked with so many multinational companies,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
as an accountant. So I just
Mm.
want to know about that particular things. What are the different kind of the challenges when you have started your career? Do you think that, so is it the really the challenge, or is it really the some kind of the directions you are getting out of that challenge? So how
Mm.
you can, and also how you have overcome that particular challenge? So if you can briefly explain to the audience, so that they will understand about you very
Yeah.
well, then we can move into the main topic.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, I started out in my working life working for a high street bank in the UK, National Westminster Bank. And I was there for about 7 years. And my career then started to go all over the place until I ended up working for what is now Orange Business Services in the UK. And one of the things that I started to do there was work on the phone, because we had a lot of people globally I was trying to work with to install data networks. And I learnt to listen very closely and deeply. So if somebody said something that didn't sound quite right, I could challenge it as a project manager. What do you mean? What does that mean? What are you telling me? And that continued as I moved into working within other big organizations, until I got to what is now Vodafone. And one of the things that I think, there's so many things that are not working in organizations. I could go through them all, but for me, I think the one thing that I identified is that there's a really good ethos in a lot of these companies that is not passed down. So they want you to, they want to be the best of the customer, and they want to be, doing the best for their people, and da 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 da. At the top, brilliant. Somewhere going down the organization to the people who are doing the doing, it gets lost in translation because they're under pressure to deliver something. And this is why organizations, for me, are great, but it's the people within them that are somehow translating or changing what's happening. And I believe it's their mindset, their emotional and mental thoughts about the world that have tweaked things. And in my last few years within Vodafone, I joined a program that was really challenging and quite difficult, in that nobody wanted, they all wanted nothing to do with it, but us on the program team still had to deliver. I'm sure you can identify with that, Sudeep, in your world. We all had to deliver this. The client didn't want it. The internal teams didn't want to build it. The management team wanted us to deliver it and get it out of the way, but didn't really want to put any effort in. And we were just fighting all fires in all corners. And unfortunately for me, it was too much. And I ended up with glandular fever. I don't know what you call it anywhere else, but mono. And I had to quit, basically. So after 6 months, I didn't know what it was. I quit, and I had burnout. I was exhausted. I pretty much had to go to bed for 6 months. Bit drama-ish, but not far off. And I wasn't the only one who went off with stress. And where did that come from? These different organizations who had different agendas. And so they weren't working together. And it was just hell, basically. But I accept responsibility for where I was. And it was that really that led me to doing what I'm doing today, because I see so many times it's people that's the problem, not the organization.
Exactly. Absolutely correct. Yeah. Thank you. So we are moving into the next topic exactly. So we are talking about the work-life balance. So
Yes.
in your language, what do you mean by this work-life balance? We know that we all are busy during our day-to-day life, day-to-day activity. On top of that, we have to take care of our family, our own life, own personal life. Everything is there. Do you feel that is that really we can maintain the work-life balance in the proper way?
So for me, work-life balance is getting a bit of a hard rap, actually, I think. But it depends on the person. What is their work-life balance? Everybody just assumes that it's balanced, but actually, I don't think life's not like that. It's not fixed, is it? Sometimes your family need more help and support for whatever reason, bereavement, poor health, whatever. And sometimes the work needs it. And the balance is finding it for you. And when you talk about the person, it becomes individual, really individual. And for me, one of the first things I wanted to talk about was it starts with us. So what does work-life balance mean for the people listening in here and generally? And one of the things I use to start to understand that is a values exercise, which I got from Neurolinguistic Program. And what you do is you list the top 5 things that are important to you about a topic. So today, if you've got pen and paper, please do feel free to do this. 5 things that are important to you about your work.
Yep, I can do it. Yep.
Okay. And then 5 things that are important to you about your family or the other part of your life, your personal life. You can break them out. So just take a few moments just to do that. Just off the top of your head, because you can do it properly afterwards. It's just to see what's going on. I'll use you, Sudeep, as a guide here as to when you've done it.
Yep. So first question, so what you were asking, can you please repeat the questions once again?
So first, one of the things, because work-life balance starts with you, the individual, I want you to write 5 things down that are important to you about work. So when I was at work, it was, well, still is, freedom, flexibility, learning, people. I can never remember the 5th one, but there's another one.
Got it.
So that's just an example. It could be money.
Yeah.
Could be money, could be career progression. It doesn't matter. And when you've done that, the first things that come into your head, the 5 things that are important to you about family. It could be love, children, connection, socializing, community, anything you like.
Yep, I have done that.
You've done both. So what I want to say before we move on is, Sudeep, I'll send you the exercise properly, but you can do this for your career.
Yep,
Not just the
definitely.
workplace you're in now, but if you decide to change careers, make sure it's the right career by making sure it meets what's important to you. So rather than going for a job title, go for a job that fulfills these criteria, because you'll be much happier. So just a little tip there, and I'll share that with you, Sudeep. So if you want it, contact Sudeep and he'll forward that on. So once you've done that, look at your lists and see if there are any values or other things, anything that's important to you in both lists. And there may well be. So for me, if I think about my work list, freedom was a big one for me generally in life, not just family. I just want to feel free. I don't want to be chained down, tied down, committing all the time. Equally, learning is always important to me. So when I'm with my family, you're always learning new interactions and everything, aren't you? That what one person in the family will do something, you think, what have you done that for? Then you've got to think about what it is for you, so forth. So look and see if there is anything on that list that's the same. If they are completely different, I want you to keep going until you find the one thing that joins them. Okay, but just for now, let's assume you have got something. Because once you've found it, this is a first step in you starting to create your work-life balance. Okay, because what we now need to do is make sure that you protect that thing that's important to you. So for me, if freedom was important, in the UK here, a lot of people are being forced to go back to the offices. Now, I've got the luxury now, and when I worked at Vodafone, for working from home. If that doesn't suit me, it's time to change jobs potentially, because the other things might be there as well, and that's fine. So just have a look at that. And as I say, if you haven't got anything in common at all, do another 5 and just see until you get the something that says, okay, this is what I need to protect first of all, to help create the balance. So what I wanted to talk about there is those values. The reason they're important is somewhere in your past, it was important to you to have this, and you don't even know necessarily that you've got that as an important thing. So that when somebody at work does something, if that bothers you or upsets you, the chances are they are going against something that's important to you. So if, as I say, with me, it was freedom. If I had a manager who was insisting I was, doing certain things, and it was like, I've got no freedom over my day, that wouldn't have worked for me. And it could have caused problems. Equally, I was talking about learning. If I wasn't learning anything, what would happen? I'd get bored. I'd suddenly find that I wasn't giving my best. So understand that when you identify those things that are important to you, that there's a reason for them, and it will have started much earlier on in life. So But what I love about it is you. This isn't somebody telling you that you want flexibility or freedom or you want money or something else. That's coming from inside you. And that's why it's important. So I don't know whether you've got anything, Sudeep, whether you've got any comments on your list at all, but if not, we can go to the next section.
Yeah. So that's a good exercise. So yeah, for me exactly. So what you told. So for me also the first thing is the career progress. Second thing is the learning. Third thing is that the authority in the organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth thing is that my flexibility should be there. And the fifth thing is that the freedom should be there.
Yeah.
So these are the 5 points I have. And in terms of the family, so I'm taking care of the family. So I need more time for my family. I love children, and I want I want to help to the society as well as the community. That is one thing. And the third thing is that the love to my other family members. Yeah, these are the
Okay, so
most.
from that, then the one thing I would pick up is this the being of service, and by progressing, you're able to be of more service and of more service and of more service. So I can see that there is a connection there, because they may not be exact, but what you're trying to do, you need one to do the other. Does that make sense? So
Correct.
awesome,
Absolutely.
brilliant,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that is important, because that leads on to the next part of the talk.
Correct. Correct. So
Which,
another thing, so I want to know, is there any way so you can improve your work-life balance?
yes, and that's why it's important to understand what's important to you about your life in work and at home, because you're going to focus on those. And one of the things that I want to talk about is this idea of boundaries. Very often, and I know it's prevalent here, so I'm assuming it's the same, globally. There's something about us putting other people first all the time. Our family, our colleagues, our managers, the profit and the bottom line, all that stuff. And that's okay to a point, isn't it? Because we've already talked about what's important to us, and where are we in this scheme? And sometimes we have to be able to turn around and say no. Now, that's really difficult. I absolutely appreciate that. When I worked with my Indian colleagues, when I was in Vodafone, Cable and Wireless and Orange, saying no wasn't an answer that was generally accepted. So we need to find better ways of saying it. Not all the time, obviously, because it's a cultural thing for certain industries. And I don't know why that is. I only ever work with the tech industry, so I can't talk about any others. But, being able to say, actually, thank you for asking, but that's not working for me, or thank you, is it possible to do it a week later or something? So we've got to learn somehow to start to ring fence that value that we've got. So for me, it would have been the would pick flexibility. And as a project manager, I needed flexibility for all the different people who I was trying to build a plan with, because we'd have several work streams. I needed that flexibility. Every so often, I'd come across somebody who said no. What do you do with that? You can't go anywhere with a no, can you? You can't make them do what you want them to do. So it's about how you overcome that for them, but also for yourself. So it's about saying to people, they might do something that treads on your value. So like I had a no. Okay. So deal with that in the moment. You might get a bit angry, cross. You might get a bit frustrated, or a bit concerned because you've got something to deliver. So deal with it as best you can, as you've always done, and then give it a day or so and go back to that person and say, I do understand that you had to do that. However, what I'd like to see happen in the future is, and what you're doing is you're protecting that boundary for you more in the future. So they don't know. They don't know. Everybody wants everything yesterday, and we just assume that that's right. Is it? One of the things I learned as a project manager, and I'm hoping some of the people will recognize this, is that the customer, the management team, they all put dates on us that were unrealistic for the people delivering. It's just the way they've gone, oh, let's do the 18th of June. Where did you get that date? We've got all this work to do. So it's about, not necessarily challenging it straight away, and not even challenging, but just saying, yeah, I've looked at what you've asked and we've got all this to do. Actually, a better date would be. And what you're doing is you're ring fencing your flexibility. And the more that they see that you're giving some really good thought to what you're saying, the more that they are likely to listen to you in the future, thereby protecting the value that you have. It depends what your value is. So
Exactly.
but you've got to ring fence it and be able to protect it, because people will tread all over it, not because they don't think highly of you, not because they don't like you, but you're just not important in terms of the work. The work's got to be done.
Correct.
So you've got to just raise your profile in there somewhere and say, okay, hold on a moment, I've booked that day off to be with my family, it's really important, I need to take that time. And when they say, find somebody who can stand in for you, take the onus of the decision away, because all they're interested in is the job being done. It won't be you necessarily. Does that make sense to you, Sudeep?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just
Absolutely.
and we work for similar companies, and it's exactly that all the time. These random things come through that they've got to have done yesterday, and it's like, really? Is that true? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it is, and you've got to go with it. But see if you can't get in there next time a bit earlier, just to make sure that you're getting your word in there a little bit more. And what I love about this is that the more that you stand up for yourself, you won't always win, but that's okay. You're not challenging them aggressively, you're just postulating an alternative. The more you do it, the more courage you will have to stand your ground, and people will look to you, thus elevating you in your workplace. Oh, hello, even better. So if work progression's on your value system, it's doing it in a way that is respectful, thoughtful, mindful, and considerate. So if you can do that, you're onto a winner.
Great. Yeah, great lesson, I would say. Yeah. Those who are listening here, so if you have any query or anything, I could see this, someone has written here, hi. So do you have any questions? So if someone is listening to us, if you have any query or anything, you can drop a message here in the comment box so that we can clarify your query. If you have any, I'm just telling to the audience, yeah, if they have. So we are moving into the next query exactly. So yeah, so do you think that is it really? Because the thing is that where I have seen in my career last more than 2 decades in the industry, I have seen that lot of people, they forget about their family life. They only think about the work, and they move forward in their positions and the one after another, and they feel that they're happy with that particular life. They're not bothered about the family life. So what do you say in that particular aspects?
I'm seeing a lot in the UK too, and people don't realise, because it creeps up on them slowly, and whether they're doing it because, and I'm just saying a few suggestions here. They're doing it because they want career progression. So certainly in the finance sector where I'm working, the youngsters they go through a lot of training to be accountants and bookkeepers, and they want to make it. They want to, get themselves up to a level where they are respected in their field, maybe owning their own businesses, or they're in senior management. Absolutely get that. But you're right. Some of them will sacrifice family time, social time to achieve that. And they do not understand the importance of the social and family side to them. You'll find some people do it to avoid situations elsewhere in their life. So, to be in the office or at work, whatever they're doing, is better than being at home or with the family or whatever else is going on in their external life. So it's an avoidance strategy. But it doesn't really matter what they're doing. They are giving themselves to a business and a career. And at some point, and it happens with most people, they'll suddenly wake up and think, is this it? Because there's only so far you can go. Not everybody's going to be a CEO. Not everybody is going to be a managing director. So we all reach a ceiling of some sort. And what then? About 20 years ago, there was a lot of people who were men primarily retiring at 65, and within 5 years they were dead. There was nothing wrong with them technically, just that they'd lost their identity, they'd lost their purpose, they'd sort of given up, and that's a broad sweeping statement, but that was a trend that they were beginning to notice. And of course, this is the point. We are human beings. We are more than the human doings, which I'm sure you have all heard before. But the being is this importance within us, knowing what's important to us. We've touched on work and family as a broad spectrum, but who are you, really? Who are you? Are you the person who is artistic? Do you have a particular hobby that interests you? We need to be broader than just the workspace. And let me tell you, when I was learning hypnotherapy years ago, my teacher said to me, always read outside your field because you will learn way more. And a bit like the job, absolutely focus on the job, but make sure that your attention is broader than the job because you bring so much more back to it. You're a rounder character individual. So I think the thing is, I wrote an article saying, are you spending too many hours at work? And at the top was pretty much, you're sacrificing family events, you're turning up late. You're doing the same with friends and social events, you're not just doing that. You might start to find that you've got small illnesses and, coughs and colds because the body can't keep up. We are not the computer. We are not a robot. We need downtime. And for those of you who are still not sure, check out research. The brain needs to process. And when it can't process, we become overwhelmed. So we need regular breaks, even during the day, technically. I think in training, they talk about every 45 minutes. But whatever it is, a regular break to allow the brain to process. And that's what this rounder character would be by bringing your attention outwards. So the work-life balance still firmly rests with you and what's important to you. How can you start to make small shifts? Because you can't go from really not being balanced, spending all your time at work and not with the family, to doing the other, because then suddenly work will suffer. Do you remember I said at the beginning, it's about allowing them to shift and change, and then you're happy and everybody around you's happy.
Correct. So you can control yourself, your work-life balance.
Exactly.
You are the owner for that. No one can control that particular things.
No.
You have to think about what is the things are priority for you, and you have to take a decision, and you can control that.
Correct.
Yeah. So thanks, Kims, for your time. So do you want to share any kind of the key message to the audience, those who are listening to us, at the end of this particular discussions, so that we can close the call afterwards?
Yeah. So we talked at the beginning about the importance of work to you, as not to your mum and dad, not to the family, but what does it mean for you? What's important to you and what's important to family? Because once you understand that, you can start to see the things that are important to you that cross both and focus on those. This will help you to start to balance that workload and family life together, because it all starts with you. I talked about once you've identified it, make sure that you're ring fencing it in some way and honoring it. What I didn't say actually, Sudeep, was that when you do that, your unconscious is listening and thinking, oh, I'm important. And it will start to help you feel important, not just be, but feel it. And this is where it's important. Okay. And then we went on to say, how do you manage it? And it's down to you to be able to decide what you need to do and make sure that you're a rounded character in terms of doing both. And if it's not family, it might be, sport, or it might be something else. Make sure you're doing both, because it allows the brain time and space to process what it needs to process so that you can be your best person. Because if you're not, nobody's going to do it for you.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Great statement. Yeah. So we are closing this particular talk show now. So if anyone have any query or anything, so you can connect with us, or related to the emotional aspects. So if you have any query, you can reach out to Kim. So Kim can help you in that aspects. So being
Absolutely.
emotional mastery coach. So if you want any kind of the guidance, any kind of the help, you can reach out to her. Thanks, Kim, for your time. We are closing the broadcast now. Here
Lovely.
itself.
Thank you, Sudeep.
Yeah.
Thank you to the
Thank you.
listeners.
Have a
I
great day.
appreciate you.
Bye.